Hello, everybody. I am going to record some things for you so that you can know who your teacher is, and maybe it'll feel more, I don't know, like you know what's going on. This particular video is going to be really about the field placement component of this class. This course is really 3 credits of content and then a credit of time in the classroom, which is about 45 hours. So it's called a lab hour, and it's not specifically important to you. It's more important to me and how I get paid. So let me show, I did make a PowerPoint. I'm going to try to do something I don't always do. We'll see how it works. And let's see, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. I'll wait for me to pop up. There we go. I'm hoping that this records with me on, on the screen. We'll see. Anyway, so our placements, there's 2 placements in here, ideally. There are maybe a couple people where it will be incredibly difficult for them to get into an infant room versus a toddler room. And so we may decide that they will do 45 hours in one room versus another. But I've created the course really so that you get experience in both. Now, so let me continue. Okay, I'm waiting to continue. Why isn't it going? There we go. All right, so you're gonna have 45 hours, and generally I decided not to write 22.5, 22.5 because it looks ridiculous. So you're gonna complete 45 hours split between an approved infant and toddler classroom schedule. So that means that you will agree to which center you're going to be at. A lot of people choose to be at our center, but if you're already working in a center or you're working in a toddler room, then it doesn't make sense to, my dog's in the background. That's Esme. It doesn't make sense to make you miss work for this. So we will allow you to complete this coursework in your class. Some of you, I believe, based on the people I saw in the class, are at our center, and I'll be working with Devin to see that your hours get scheduled, to the best of our ability, the way it needs to happen. So basically, when it says as scheduled, I will tell you that this is because too many times, especially recently, I've had people that are scheduled and then they don't show up, they no show, and they get scheduled for like 100 hours, and they could be taking time slots that are really meant for other people, but it's also supposed to be, when you're doing something that's supposed to be akin to an internship, you need to be professional and you need to show up and demonstrate. This is a chance for you to demonstrate that you would be a great early childhood educator because you're reliable and responsible. All right, so the field placement hours, you need to document your hours as they are completed weekly with thorough reflection and observations as assigned. And it's kind of funny, as I'm rereading this, I put this on multiple slides. So apparently I'm really concerned that people aren't doing this on time. You will be compiling an infant portfolio and a toddler portfolio. If I'm trying to think if anyone just took 240 with me, and I don't think so. So there is a class later on in early childhood, the early childhood degree program, in which you have to do 112 hours, and you have to do portfolios for 6 students, but it's in a pre-K room. So for this, you will be choosing, usually you should do 2 or 3 probably portfolios, because sometimes kids leave in the middle or, are absent, and especially with summer, they might be going on vacation. So you want to have a couple different people that your children that you're observing and, compiling a portfolio that documents their development across all domains. Because at the end of your 45 hours, or 22 and a half, depending on how you look at it, you will be writing a child study and presenting that as if it's a parent-teacher conference, okay? And then the other thing we have to do in our infant and toddler placements is an ITERS. And one of the requirements for the books you're supposed to have bought or purchased for this course is the Infant Toddler Environmental Rating Scale. It's blue, and it's the third edition. I think it says ITERS 3 or something in a circle. You really do need the third one, the latest one, because they've really updated the anti-biased material and or what we used to call multicultural. And it's very different. The scales are different as we've, as OCFS or as the people that decide on best practice, no more do, no better. They create a scale or an instrument that is better. Now, the reason we're doing this is not to rate our classroom per se, but it is to learn learn about the ideal environment through this instrument, but also learn how sometimes classrooms in reality may seem different than like what we're reading. And so this information will be private and confidential, and we may discuss it in class, but it is not, this is for us to learn, right? So we'll be writing a summary report on what you come up with as a score, but there's multiple. Thanks, Esme. There's multiple areas that this allows you to kind of look at, and it's almost like a mini textbook for us. You can use it as a jumping off point for us to discuss, what we're seeing out in the field, and then look at what we're reading about, because we're going to read about all sorts of best practices or ideal practices from theorists, right? And how does that all align with what we're coming up to in reality and experiencing in our placements? And what do we think? What are the differences? This is just a good way for us to learn about that ideal environment. And it's a premier instrument. NAEYC uses it to evaluate infant toddler classrooms, to help the teachers decide on goals for improvement. And it's also used by Quality Stars, both of which are local. I know are definitely accreditation or, yeah, accreditation that local area centers have pursued. Okay. All right. So what's your first step? I don't like that my little box here is over my thing. So that's not good. Let me see if I minimize it. So identify where you're going to complete your hours. I'm going to post a survey, just like, where do you want to complete your 45 hours? Do you have a mentor teacher in mind? If you're at the Arthur Kuka Center, you do not need to worry about this. Devin and I will figure this out probably this week. If you are a infant or toddler teacher already, or you work at a child care center, then you're going to want to write that information. You're going to want to see if there's a person at the center willing to sign your paperwork, preferably someone in your classroom or your direct supervisor. And I know there's one student in here who lives near a place, and we need to do some quick this week looking into what do they actually have. I need to make sure that they are licensed or whatever, and see if this is going to work out as a placement. All right. So your job will be, first step, answer the survey. So I know there's not a lot of people in here. Last I looked, I think there were 5 or 6 people. We'll see if anybody else signed up. Go to the next page. Why isn't it going? Oh no. Hang on. How did I get it to go? I love this. Come on. I'm just trying to figure out why my thing ain't going. There it is. So this is a picture, because sometimes people still, I've probably done it too, by the wrong environmental scale. In fact, I kept trying to take the picture of my yellow one, which is for pre-K, and stick it in here. So I'm probably part of the problem. So this is the third edition. we're going to use this twice, so I recommend not writing in it. It is kind of pricey to buy it twice. So I would probably photocopy it or write notes on a thing, making sure you know which area of the scale you're at. And then there is like a summary sheet at the back you can easily photograph, and it won't cost you a ton of money. Okay. Now, these are just some things I always have problems with. You'll notice I think I already talked about them before. So you're an ambassador for a college, to be honest with you, when you're out in the classroom. Okay. And so I expect you to be as professional as you are able to be. I know that sometimes this is a learning curve, so that's okay. I'm not expecting perfection, but TC3 ambassadors, whether they're at our childcare center or another childcare center, will be 5 minutes early for their scheduled opportunity. And if you aren't already working in a classroom, this especially applies to you. You are being offered the ability to be a guest in a classroom, like kind of like a volunteer, but it is for your education. They're creating space for you to be in that classroom. So just showing up whenever you want or is convenient is not okay. Yes, maybe you get a flat tire, maybe something happens, maybe you're stuck behind a train. These things occur. That's okay. But generally, like for me, if I'm either really early or I'm late. So I get to work an hour before my classes start. Now this class is asynchronous, so I don't have that problem um, during the summer. But be 5 minutes early for your scheduled opportunity. Be in the classroom. Like that doesn't mean you're in the parking lot at 1 if you're supposed to work at 1. And you shouldn't be working at 1 anyway, because generally speaking, we don't complete our hours during nap time. But if it's an infant room, sometimes that works out just because they're supposed to be on their own schedule, so they don't necessarily all sleep 1 to 3. They might be sleeping on and off during the day. Once you get to a waddler room, they might have, sleep time during it. You can discuss it with me if you think it's an issue. All right. So just be early, be on time. And for me, that means that if I want to be in a classroom ready to go at the time I'm scheduled, I always have to use the ladies' room before I go in. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to make sure I'm in the center like at 15 minutes before, use the ladies' room, sign in, get everything in order, and then be in the classroom ready to go. Not just parking my car, coming in, and then it's really 15 to 20 minutes after you're scheduled to be there. Okay, that's not professional. Read the policies of the center and follow them. So if you're doing your placement at our center, you will be having a little orientation where they'll have you review the policy. They'll review the policies with you, give you a little tour. There's some rules to follow. Generally, you cannot have your phone in an early childhood setting. It is against the policies of it's just not safe and it's not right. If you're looking at your phone, you're not watching children. And so even if you're a guest in the classroom, I expect you to follow any rules that the teachers are expected to follow. So most of those places may have like a dress code. In the summer, I think someplace, I'm trying to think what their dress code is here. It's very different. Like obviously in the winter, you have to have the right, if the kids have to wear a coat, you should have a coat. In the summer, I would imagine, I know Casey has she allows people to wear flip-flops because she says if you have to run after a child, you can kick off the flip-flops. I don't know. Go with what the center says. So I do think there might be something where you can't have your bra strap showing, or, you want to make sure you're covered. And I can't remember how they don't want short shorts. They don't want, when you bend over, they don't want to have a little bit of a show, things like that. So make sure you look at that before you go for the first time, if you have it ahead of time. But keep those things in mind. And if you're wearing a dress, when you bend over, you don't want to have everything hanging out the other end. But for me, I expect students to be on the floor, reading books, playing with children, talking to children. So I'm not wearing a dress in that situation because that's a lot of work to make sure nothing's showing. I'm not going to make that rule, but keep in mind that you should be up and down. You should be on the floor with the children if you haven't been given a specific task. And you should be, observing them, playing with them, reading books to them, etc. And when I say observe, we'll talk about that as time goes on. But usually you want to be engaged with the kids. You can observe what's going. You got to start practicing that teacher who has like eyes in the back of her head, You want to go in and know kind of what you're looking for based on the work we're doing, but you also want to be present for the children. Welcome to teaching, right? And then the other thing that I'm really looking for that rarely has occurred, and I want you to be the class that changes this, is you will submit your weekly reflections, documenting your time completed on. There go my dogs. We'll talk more about that. And that is my video, just kind of introducing the field placement. My dogs are about to go crazy barking. So I'll just end it there. More will be coming.